The Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
Hello, Cherries fans, and welcome back to Up the Cherries in all departments for this week's cherry picking. And as you can see next to me, we're not joined with Craig this week or Manny, but we're joined again by Jonny Blair. How you doing, Johnny?
Yeah, Up the Cherries. Good to see you.
Excellent. And we've got a bumper pack episode this week, so let's get started. Let's see what's coming up. And this week on cherry picking, we have our normal Guess the Cherry game. We'll touch briefly on Bournemouth's defeat at the King Power last weekend. Before we start our international series, this will be part one, where we will be covering Northern Ireland. So that's what we got on today's cherry picking. So let's start off with Guess the Cherry. Let's see if you can get it, Johnny. I reckon you will, to be honest.
Yeah.
I reckon for definitely you'll get this one. So this week's Guess the Cherry is born in Camberley in 1980, came through the youth system at Dean Court, captained Bournemouth to the playoff final, in which he scored twice in 2003, transferred to West Ham for a fee of £257,000 in 2004, played in the FA Cup final known as the Gerrard final, represented Wales at full international level, and had a short spell as manager of Leyton Orient. So that is our Guess the Cherry this week. I'm sure you've probably guessed already, Johnny, who that is.
I like the kit. Yeah, I know who it is, but obviously won't spoil it. I like the kit because you've put the white with the green. Is that deliberate because we're doing Northern Ireland tonight? Sorry, yeah.
No, you can say it. You can say what we're doing. Yeah, no, that's fine, mate. Yeah, no, actually, it was not deliberate, but well spotted.
Yeah,
to be honest. But obviously this weekend you were there. We played Leicester at the King Power. What was your thoughts on the game, Johnny? Because I was kind of really frustrated by it, to be honest with you.
It was just destined to be like that. I mean, what can we say? First of all, Leicester hadn't won a game at home in the Premier League or a Premier League game this season, and they probably, because they were down in the second tier for like a season, it's their first kind of win back up. So we were the fall guys, and I remember a few times, we scored the Phil Billing one to kind of almost relegate them, the 1-0 last time. We beat them 4-1 at the court. There was a sort of COVID time. I think Eddie Howe was still the boss. We beat them 4-1 at one point. And I thought, like, I mean, Semenyo and that. We did try really hard. And then the VAR goal, of course, Cookie, and then obviously it's been disallowed. But fair play to Leicester. They did what they needed to do. They scored a goal and they won 1-0. I don't know what else we could really have done apart from maybe feed more up to Evan Nielsen, get a few more shots from the strikers. Tavernier could have done better with the corners. But what can we say? We didn't do it. We didn't win on the day, and I don't think we would complain that much that Leicester had a game plan and they won.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's a fair point of view. I mean, for me, I think it's just that final third, isn't it? Getting more shots in, like you say. For me, it was very frustrating to sit there.
Hit the woodwork.
Yeah. I mean, I think everything, it just didn't drop for us in front of goal, did it? And it's frustrating. It's one where I thought really we probably should have got a draw really out of it. I mean, I would have been happy with a point, to be fair.
I would have taken a point, with Lewis Cook with the free kick. I mean, that would have been his third of the season, wouldn't it? Because we've been waiting for years for him to score, and then he gets 3 in one season. So it's like it's one of those,
Yeah, very frustrating, but it's all about the international break now anyway, isn't it? And obviously on this episode of Cherry Picking, we're covering Northern Ireland. So let's just have a brief look at the games coming up for Northern Ireland. So couple of tough games, or how do you see these two playing out?
Yeah, I mean it's a double B. Traditionally, we would have been better than both of them. We actually beat Bulgaria away twice in the 70s, and then when they had Stoichkov and that, they did beat us in that sort of cracking Bulgarian era, if you like, sort of 90s to early noughties. They were decent, but these days we should have enough to beat both of them, but I know that we won't, because this is the way we play. We'll end up getting a last minute draw with one of them, but the Belarus one's neutral venue because they're in some type of UEFA sanction, and the Bulgaria one's at home. I would think in Belfast we should beat Bulgaria, so I would go for sneak a 1-1 with Belarus and beat Bulgaria 2-0, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the squad these days, I'm not really up on the squad. What kind of top players are in the Northern Ireland squad these days?
Unfortunately, Johnny Evans just retired from international football. I mean, he would have been our best player. Then just before that, we had Stephen Davis, Stuart Dallas retired. So we're sort of relying on lower division players. Dion Charles, though, he's at Bolton Wanderers. He got a hat trick the other day. He's our striker. I would put him down to get at least a goal in one of those two games, Dion Charles. But it is what it is. We don't have the squad in depth anymore. We've even had to bring in a new goalkeeper that's uncapped because of the different injuries and suspensions, etc. Paddy McNair is a decent player. He's played for quite a lot of teams in his career already, including like Man United, West Brom. He was at Middlesbrough, and gosh, I'm forgetting what clubs he was at. But those are my predictions. Get a 1-1 away and beat him 2-0 at home.
How are you placed in the Nations League at the minute?
We beat Luxembourg 2-0, and then we went to Bulgaria away, and they scraped a 1-0, but it was a 0-0 game. It was one of those you didn't want to watch that, and I watched it. So yeah, we should have had 4 points on the board. We should have had the home win and then the away draw, but at least we beat Luxembourg, so we might do the double over them at least.
Yeah. It's a funny old game, the Nations League, isn't it? It's put in place to was it to get rid of friendlies to make more competitive football? And I mean, is it really that important, the Nations League, from Northern Ireland's perspective?
For us, we've always been pretty rubbish at it. I mean, our first win was against Kosovo in the whole history of that Nations League. Like, I think we kept losing games. Like, we were 1-0 up in a few, and we scraped a draw with Cyprus at one point. 2-2. We had a home draw. Johnny Evans scored, I think it was the last minute in that. And yeah, we just we've never been into it. I know England as well. Been. Have you guys been in the final, or was it the semis you were in?
I think it was the semis, wasn't it? That
Yeah.
we got to.
But you see the thing, yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo has won it. So for him, it's another trophy, and he'll be dancing around Portugal, win it with the Nations League, because it's his second different international trophy because he won the Euros. But I think no, I'm not a fan of it, to be honest. But it is, we'll watch it.
Yeah. I think that's. I totally agree with you. To be honest, man, I think same from England's perspective, it's just a case of watching it. Really, I mean, it's not of any massive importance in my personal opinion. But that brings us on to tonight's segment. So, what we're doing tonight, Johnny, I don't know if you want to take it from here to explain, but obviously we are connecting Northern Ireland and AFC Bournemouth, aren't we?
Yeah, so between us, you and I, and then I've bunched the idea off a few other people. What we're doing here is we're doing a would-be Northern Ireland Cherries major tournament squad. So we're going to do 23 players. I thought we'd do I was thinking of the traditional 22, but then I realized that there was a few extra goalkeepers in there. So so we made it 23. So, I remember when they changed it from 22 to 23, and then after COVID, isn't it 26 now or something, Matt?
Yeah, 25, 26, 25, something
it's
like
too
that,
many, but maybe you do need 3 goalkeepers, like if one gets sent off. So it's basically 22, and then obviously there's the 23, the extra one's going to be a goalkeeper. And these are players that at some point in their career, they were at AFC Bournemouth, and they were also capped at some level for Northern Ireland. So when I say that, it could be a player that went through the youth system at the Cherries, didn't make it, ended up moving to another club. And it could also be, a Northern Ireland under 15 or under 16 international that just come over to Bournemouth for a few games or something. So there will definitely be a few surprises in here. If anyone's watching this and they haven't seen the show before, obviously I'm into my geek facts as well. I'm interested in things a little bit off the wall, or those Cherries we don't remember. Everyone remembers like the Fletchers and Jalals and the Haters, but think of a player that maybe made one appearance or came off the bench and scored, and the forgotten ones. And in Northern Ireland at international level, we've also got these sort of, the one cap wonders, or they came and went and they were forgotten, but they're never forgotten in the history books. So that's the good thing. This is a bit of a history lesson as well, I think, Matt. What do you reckon about that?
Yeah, no, you're totally. I mean, obviously, with the research that you've done, and the research I've done to comply everything together, it's definitely a bit of a history lesson. I've learned a few bits, so yeah, no, it's been excellent. Well, should we take it away?
Yeah,
first player.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, let's go for it. Okay. First player, Lee Camp.
Yeah, right. Now I'll have to start off by saying we didn't have an abundance of good goalkeepers from Northern Ireland that were at AFCB. So obviously I've looked at the players that were there. Camp actually, impressively for him and a lot of people, he played for England and Northern Ireland at international level. Obviously England was under 21 level. Northern Ireland, he had a few full caps. I do have to say, I think it was him that played in the Estonia away defeat when we lost 4-1. So Northern Ireland fans will not best remember him for that. But he got promoted with the Cherries. I liked him for definitely for a few games at least, Matt. You saw him live at Dean Court. What do you think Cherries' legacy will be for Lee Camp?
Tricky one, isn't it? Because he left under a bit of a. Well, he's frozen out, wasn't he? Really?
Yeah.
I remember
Artur Boruc was better, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, Boruc come in. A fantastic keeper. We all know what Boruc is all about. But I think really what killed it off for Lee Camp, I remember Derby. Was it Derby away? and he got sent off, and I think that was probably the last time I think he played for us. I think. So I think the season that he came in, we had a few goalkeepers coming in and out. I think we had Stephen Henderson on loan from West Ham.
Benji
I
Buchel,
think we
was he
started
there?
Who?
Do you
Sorry.
remember Benjamin Buchel? Do you remember Benji
Yeah,
Buchel?
yeah. He was part of the squad at the time.
In that sort of
Brian
era, yeah.
Allsop. Yeah, so I think Brian
Flahaven
Allsop.
was
Who? Sorry.
Flahaven was there, was he?
Lehaven was there.
Yeah,
I
all
think
right.
he might have been injured actually around that time. I think he might have been
Okay.
injured. I think Allsop started the season as number one. And then obviously Lee Camp come in. And then it was, I think, the following season when Boric come in was when he got sent off at Derby away. I think he come charging out the box, if I remember rightly, and just completely floored the player.
Did we lose
And got
2-0
straight
that
red
day?
for
I think we lost. Didn't we lose 2-0?
Yeah, we lost. We lost.
Yeah.
2-0 kind of rings a bell. Yeah. But it
Yeah.
was definitely a defeat. But yeah, not the most fondest of memories, but quite a journeyman. From what I've looked, I mean, I knew he played for quite a few clubs, but he's been about a bit as well. He's retired now. I think he's a phase coach somewhere. Can't remember exactly where he's phase coach, but yeah, he's into coaching now. But yeah, I mean, I don't think he really set Northern Ireland alight, did he? While he, during his 9 caps.
No, absolutely not. Lee, if you're listening, we'll have you on the show. Love to meet you, but it's one of those things. We've got heroes like Pat Jennings, so it's hard to live up to that. But thanks for your contribution. Yeah.
So this is the starting 11 that we're starting with first, isn't it? The players that you would start.
Yeah, I'm going with him because he won the championship and he's got 9 full caps, played for England, and 11 clean sheets in 47. It's not bad, but it could have been better, but it's all right,
Yeah. The best out of a bad bunch, I suppose, as they would say. Well, the next one's quite an interesting one. Dick Keefe. Now, just before you start here, Johnny, I actually went to school with 2 of Dick Keefe's grandsons.
Wow.
And they were big Newcastle fans, and obviously they used to keep an eye on Northern Ireland. But yeah, so it was quite interesting when you included his name in the 11.
Yeah, obviously it'd be my dad's era. It's going to happen when you're picking, a historic team which covers like a century basically.
Yeah.
So, but I was aware of Dick Keefe because we were in the World Cup in 1958, and it was the first time Northern Ireland had been in it. There were 4 UK nations in it that year. Actually, Wales, Scotland, and England were all in it, and we got through the group. And Dick Keefe, as I recall, I think my dad told me he played every match in the World Cup that we played. So we played 5 World Cup games. He played in them all. 23 caps, but in those days there weren't as many games, and you didn't have San Marino and Andorra and stuff to play. So 23 caps over 5 years. If he was playing today, I'm sure that would be over 50 caps and at least 10 years of service. So it's one of those different era of football. Bournemouth and Boscombe, when it was called that, 47 appearances over 2 seasons. Nice little legacy for him at the club, and obviously the story with the grandson. That's I didn't know that. Matt. So
yeah. No,
that's
it's
cool.
He also played for Weymouth as well after Bournemouth.
Brilliant. So he had a wee bit of a Dorset sort of addiction when he got down there.
Yeah, and obviously he passed away very young. But yeah, it was a really interesting name to see as on the list anyway. But a player, if you finish with Dick Keefe, we'll move on. Or you got him? Or anything else?
Yeah, we can move. Yeah,
you done?
The next one's Keith, isn't
it? Yes, it is. It's a Keith. Yep, certainly is. Keith Rowland.
You see what I did there?
Yeah.
So I went Dick Keith Rowland. Oh, I was going to do something actually. The first thing I was going to do was because obviously I'm wearing a Northern Ireland shirt because we're picking the NI squad. But I found this old sort of vintage Dean Court scarf. So I thought I'd show that, and I'll wear that actually during the episode, so that I've got the Cherries badge.
Yeah.
I don't even remember
Yeah.
how much I paid for this, but I bought it in the club shop, and it's still one of my favorite scarves. I hardly ever
Yeah.
wear it because it's that good. You know, when you've got your
Yeah.
good ones, you don't sort of wear them
Yeah.
all the time.
I mean,
So Keith
I love
Rowland,
the Scots. Yeah. Great.
yeah. I'll get the Cherries and the Northern Ireland badges almost
There
together
it
there.
is.
So,
That's it.
um,
Spot on.
Keith Rowland, it's kind of a bit of a segue there, you know, went from Dick Keith to Keith Rowland. Obviously, Keith, yeah, I saw him play quite a few times for Northern Ireland. Never saw him play live for the Cherries at Dean Court. Obviously, his tenure there, he was there, you know, before I was sort of in Bournemouth or before I was, you know, a massive fan. Did you see him, Matt? Do you remember much about Keith?
He would have been. Yeah, I can't. He was there till 93. I started going when I was about 4 or 5. So yes, but I don't really have any clear, like, real memories of him. To be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I do remember very distinctively is that national goal. But I've actually got my match ticket here. Can you believe? I dug that out actually. So that Northern Ireland v Finland, Euro 2000 qualifier. How much was that? £7 it was for a match ticket.
£7.
I was in the North Stand lower, £7, yeah, at Windsor Park, and we beat Finland 1-0. Keith Rowland scored the winner. But if you look at my seat number, seat 21, I was block
Yeah.
A, row
Yeah.
N, seat 21. Block
Yeah.
A at Windsor Park, if you look, is it's near the goals. So that particular day, I was literally adjacent to him, about 10 yards from Keith Rowland when he scored the winner. He struck a left foot shot into the bottom corner, and we beat Finland 1-0. So very memorable for me, and he's our sturdy left back. I thought he was a cracking player. He had a good time in the Premier League at West Ham United as well.
Yeah, and it was actually at West Ham United where he did make his first appearance for Northern Ireland on September the 8th, 1993.
I was also I'd have been at that game. It would have been Latvia or Republic of Ireland. I think it might have been. It would have been Latvia.
I think you're right.
The home one. If it was the away, I wasn't at it.
Latvia. No, Johnny, you're spot on. Latvia.
Yeah, we beat them 2-0 as well. So that's the there you go. Good one. Yeah.
Well, that's like I say, I remember him more from when he was at West Ham, and very solid player. And obviously that's why Harry came back in for him, I suppose, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's have a look at the next choice, which is a name that a lot of people aren't going to know, but it's very interesting story with this one. I think that when I've done some research on him.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these players that we'll have in the squad tonight, they're, you know, some of them, they even died before I was born. Obviously there's no video footage of a lot of these guys, but what's even more interesting is appearances and goals unknown. Obviously the caps, just 2 caps, but in those days, 2 caps in those days is like winning the lottery or something, because it's like we did, players with 1 cap would be glad of it. Now you get caps for fun. So we'll stick him in at number 4. I don't know whether he's a defensive, or he's more like, I think he was more of a fullback. But
fullback. Yeah,
I'm gonna stick him in at number 4. I'm shifting about the back 4 a bit probably there, just to get him in.
Yeah. I mean, what I love is about these older players that you've listed is that some of them I've managed to find like the old cigarette cards of them.
Oh,
so,
brilliant! Yeah,
these days, in our era, it was all the sticker albums, wasn't it? Whereas back in the 50s, it was like the cigarette cards. And
did you say sticker album? Did you? Was that
sticker album?
Did you say sticker album?
Yeah, there you go.
There's a Panini. There's a Northern Ireland Panini. Yeah, there might be a few cherries in there. You never know if any of them make the squad. But yeah, there's a shiny. There's a shiny there.
The good old shinies. So, yeah. Good old shinies.
Yeah, nice reference there. Nice bit of a. I didn't expect to hear that, but the sticker albums. Yeah, my granddad and my dad would have had some of the cigarette cards. Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. It's great to see. Because obviously, like I say, our modern era, it's all sticker albums, isn't it? So, but yeah, no. Next player. Now this guy, I do remember of this guy, and I do remember my dad when I used to go and watch Bournemouth back in this time. That this guy was a class player, but I think he was unlucky with injuries throughout his career. But a class player.
Yeah, should have done more. It's interesting you've put never capped at any level for Northern Ireland. It's possible that the record books may not show that. I think he may have played a B game or an under 16, but I'd need to check it. But the point is, don't worry, because the record books may omit that. But basically, when I went to Windsor Park one night to watch Northern Ireland full team, and he was on the bench, but in those days, you'd have like 5 players on the bench, but you could only make 2 subs or 3 subs, I think it was. And he didn't get on, but people were raving about him. And then he was called up again. I think it might have been Billy Bingham, or I think it was Billy Bingham that might have brought him into the squad, or it could have been Brian Hamilton, can't remember. But the next game, he was brought into the squad again as a squad player. And I think he had to pull out injured. And there was another story about him. I think he was called up for a squad at some point as well later. And he also had to pull out, or he travelled with the team but wasn't named in the final 15. So a bit of a sad story, but like the fact that he was at Dean Court. I love that shirt, that exchange in Mark one. What a
Classic
shirt that is. I love the retro shirts. I know it's all the rage now. But to have the original ones of them, not the retro, like the George Best one, for example, from the 1980s, you'd love to have that, So
I've actually got a replica of the George Best one that you're talking about. I've got a remade one, but I do have an original of. 1 second. 1 second. Just so I don't think I've shown you before. Now I've just broken the room.
Yeah,
that's an original of the away version.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, because of course, the retro stuff.
Yeah, I've got the new retro version of this because they've remade this, but this is actually original.
Yeah.
Don't know if you can see.
Got both. You've got the original and that. And do you know what? You don't put it in the washing machine. That's the rule, isn't it?
Oh yes, I hand wash
because they destroy them. Yeah.
Yeah, I hand wash all mine.
You wear it like once every 5 years, right?
Yeah. Well, I've got that many Bournemouth shirts. I can wear one every 5 years, to be honest with you.
But actually, while we're on Neil Masters, if he's out there and he wants to come on the show, I'd love to speak to him. I'd love to hear his story. He must have a great story. He also played for Wolves. He played in Norway.
Yeah, he did.
And the fact that he was in the Northern Ireland squad without a cap is kind of like, it's a sad thing, really,
Yeah, no, totally. But yeah, great choice. I mean, like I say, great player.
Yeah.
Next up, another Cherries legend, Steve Robbo.
Yeah, Stevie Robinson. Yeah. Now with Stevie here, of course he's got to go straight into the starting team. But I'd stick him in midfield because what's going to happen next is I might get a little bit attack minded. I'm kind of doing because I can't say I'm doing an Eddie Howe because obviously Eddie's a defender and he would have been quite strict with his back four, especially the sort of Daniels, Elphick, Francis, Cookie. The back four we had there was brilliant. But I'd stick Stevie, even though he did a bit of wing play, he was up front a bit. I'd stick him in midfield. He should have had more caps. So in 10-year international career, 7 caps. I don't know whether it was injuries pulled out or out of favour with the managers, but I'd have given him more caps. What a career at the Cherries. In fact, he might even be in this squad, he might be the player with the most appearances at Dean Court. Is that right? 241.
Yeah, because he was also capped at I think under 19 and under 21 as well while he was at Dean Court, as well as full level. So yeah, I would imagine altogether he's probably the most capped player while at the club. Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, like most appearances for Cherries as well. Yeah. Because
yes, I think he is. Yeah. In terms of Cherries, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, him for me. I mean, being at that age, when watching him week in week out, he was always one of my favourite players. Good penalty taker as well. Good penalty taker. Would he be a penalty taker? That's the question. Would he be the penalty taker? Because we haven't even seen the front line yet. But he would definitely be amongst those. I mean, he definitely would be ideal for a penalty shootout, wouldn't he? I think Robbo.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Northern Ireland have never lost a penalty shootout. There's a fact for you. Northern Ireland into full international level. We've only ever played one penalty shootout, and we beat Bosnia-Herzegovina away in Sarajevo, or it might have been in Mostar, but it was we beat them on penalties, and we invented the penalty kick. The penalty kick was invented in Northern Ireland in a little village called Milford, in the about 1870s or 1880s. It was invented by a guy called I should remember his name. How can I forget his name? I'll have to try and remember that. So the guy that invented the penalty, it's just slipped my mind suddenly. McCrum, William McCrum. William McCrum invented the penalty, and sometimes we call it a penalty or a McCrum just for the banter. So we invented the penalty kick in Northern Ireland, because before that, of course, if you went down in the box, it was just a free kick from where you went down.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. We did say it was going to be a bit of a history lesson, didn't we? And there you go. There's a fact. I never knew that the penalty kick was invented in Northern Ireland. So there you go. Well, probably the most iconic player that you've put on the list, and obviously could not be on this list. George Best.
Yeah, this is a hero. Let me do something. So I'm in Poland at the minute, and I popped to the off license just before the show. I thought, if George Best is going to be in the team, I'm gonna have a wee beer for him. But the beer is a bit of a story, so I'll put that up. I don't know if can you see that? It's it's a Polish Cormoran strong lager. This is my first sip ever of this type of beer. So let me try this one. Hold on. So that sip is for George. But there's a bit of a story with the beer as well, because it's called Cormoran, and it's got a picture of a cormorant on it, like the bird, because the Polish word is cormoran for cormorant. But when we signed Jan Kermergant, I kept calling him Cormorgant because I thought I thought it was the same name as the bird. Yeah. So we did a bit of a joke. We were at Man City away, I think it was, and Kermorgant was on the bench, but we were doing, this kind of Jan Kermorgant. I was singing Black Cormorant, actually, just for the banter. So, I mean, George would have liked that. Just to throw that Jan Kermorgant reference in there. Anyway, George Best, Belfast boy. We got an airport named after him. He won the Ballon d'Or. I guess he's AFC Bournemouth's only ever Ballon d'Or, even though he only played a few games for us. He's our only ever one, isn't he, Matt?
I can't think of anybody else that stands out that's won that. He is.
So unless we sign Messi or something next season, of course, for his farewell or whatever. But yeah, I love George Best, and I grew up, just down the road a wee bit in Bangor, but my family, all from the Craigie area in Belfast, which is the same area, George Best. So my grandmother used to speak to his dad all the time, Dickie Best, fifth Beatle, and he's the first name on the team sheet. Even he had 5 appearances at Dean Court. I think he doubled the gate receipts or something, didn't he?
Yeah. He doubled the attendance on his first appearance, which I think was against, was it Newport? Someone like that, if memory serves me right. But
I think he
obviously
played against Swansea as well. He did a few well.
Yeah.
Did he play against Swansea and Newport? Yeah.
I think so, yeah. I think that's 2 of the sides that he played against. I think he only played the home games. I think the 5 appearances were only home games, I think, if I remember rightly.
He must have had a girl. He must have had a girl in the town.
I think there's a picture actually of. Now you remind me. One second. Now you remind me. But that's if I can put my hand on it. There it is. Right.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
Blessed.
Yeah.
Great book. Now, if I remember rightly, I think at the time, let me just find it. Yeah, his lady at the time was a Miss World, and that's her picture at Dean Court when he made his debut against Newport.
That's brilliant. That is, I mean, I read that book. I'll tell you where I read it. I actually read that book on a round the world trip, but I got really inspired to read it in Los Angeles for some reason, because George had also played for the LA Aztecs before he was at Dean Court. So he sort of left Man United, gone to like Hibs and Fulham, done his whole go to America and play with Pele and all that sort of thing, as you do when you're that good. And then he just thought, well, I fancy a day out at Boscombe down at the seaside. Probably had a few big. That's why he didn't score a goal for the Cherries. But it's one of those things, it's a legacy. And I love the way the club have put a picture of him up on the wall, when you're walking past, because I think that sort of says how big a figure he was for me. And rest in peace, George.
Icon, an absolute icon of the game. Like you say, the book there, Blessed, is great book. And I recently did a 2-part interview with a former AFC Bournemouth captain called David Stocks, which went live on the channel last night, part 2, where he actually tells about the time he played against George Best and how George Best nutmegged him. Check that out if you're watching this and you haven't seen that yet. David Stocks Select 11, where he talks about George Best and being nutmegged. Well, it's going to probably be a bit of a come down now after having such an iconic player, but no disrespect, but Dudley Milligan. Now, that little cigarette card there is actually when he was at AFC Bournemouth and Boscombe Athletic. That is actually the key.
That's a great find.
I don't know if you can make out the first word, just where it says Northern Ireland there, it actually says Bournemouth. So that's the actual cigarette card when that player was at Bournemouth.
Yeah. That would be a great one to have. When I do the research into some of these players, I was aware of Dudley before. I love the name as well. What a great name,
Yeah.
Dudley Milligan. Do you know what I mean? We think of the fans' chants we could have had for him. You know, you could get that into many songs. Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
you know, it's like because like someone like Derek Holmes, or you know, they roll off the tongue, get him into your song. But
Mm.
what got me about him was because Northern Ireland, we do sometimes have players that are not born, you know, in our 6 wee counties, and he was born in South Africa.
Yes.
So what a story! He's managed to play international football for 2 teams. You know, he played for South Africa and for Northern Ireland, and I think that's a brilliant thing. You know, what a story that would be. And of course, he died. I think it's 1971 there. So it's like, yeah, a bit of a legacy. 45 appearances, 25 goals. That's a hell of a good record. That is, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. When I was looking into it, I thought, wow, that's some goal scoring record, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, like I say, he also passed away in South Africa. So I'm assuming after his playing days, he returned to
Mm.
South Africa. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting, like you say, to play international level for two countries, and it's so diverse as well. It's not like, you know, your Jack Grealish, you know, who played for England and then went to play for Republic of
Yeah.
Ireland, or, you know, anything as close as that.
Mm.
You know, it's on 2 different continents. It's yeah, I wonder how many players have played international football for 2 sides in different continents. Might be loads. I don't
Yeah.
know. But
Full level.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, under 21s and stuff, it would happen quite regularly. But I think Diego Costa didn't he do Spain and Brazil? So there's a few that do it, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, Diego Costa. Yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot about it. Who did he
Yeah.
play for first? Brazil, wasn't it? And then he switched to Spain, wasn't it?
Yeah. If that was me, I'd have stayed with Brazil. But then Spain are decent, you know. But to be part of the Brazil setup would have been, you know, they're the magical, you know, 5 times World Cup winners. So
Yeah, yeah, they certainly are. Well, let's start with your number 9 choice. Now,
yeah, okay,
an awesome
yeah,
player, awesome player.
mm, yeah. I think I'm going to be quite attack minded here. Which when I looked at the Northern Ireland players that we've had at Dean Court down the years, there were actually a lot less defenders, or even just a lot less decent defenders than there were of goalkeepers and strikers for some reason. But I've got to put George Best at 7, and Colin Clark at number 9. The reason is Best's iconic number at Man United was 7. So if I'm giving out squad numbers for a major tournament, I'm putting George Best at number 7. You know, it's got to be. Number 8 for Dudley Milligan, because I think he could have played like sort of midfield, wing, forward. He's moving around a bit. Colin Clark has to be the number 9. He's a target man. He was our record goal scorer at Northern Ireland for a while, believe it or not, on 13 goals. And yeah, he scored. I mean, he scored in the World Cup. In fact, as we speak today, he's the last
Yeah,
Northern Irish international to have scored in the World Cup, which was in 1986. It was against Spain in Guadalajara, and it was a header. Their goalkeeper messed it up, and Clarkey just knocked it in. And you know, he was at the Cherries at the time, so he's you know, we've had obviously a few World Cup goal scorers since then. The likes of Darren Anderson, Jermaine Defoe have
yeah,
scored in the World Cup, but Clarkey did it when he was a Cherry, so I love that. And then he was also at these 2 other clubs, Matt, on the South Coast, but we
yeah,
won't talk about that. You know, he's in there because he was a Cherry. He was a Cherry, and he was a Northern Ireland World Cup hero for me as a kid. I just loved the fact that someone from our country could score in a World Cup.
yeah. I mean, I remember my dad saying that he was one hell of a goal scorer during that sort of mid-80s period for Bournemouth,
Mm.
and he also went on to be based in the USA for quite some time, I think, as well, wasn't he? With
Yep.
several different clubs and managed
Oh
in the
yeah.
MLS. So yeah,
Yep.
not surprised to see Colin Clark's name on your list, but let's have a look at your next choice for your starting 11. Jimmy Quinn. So he's going to be well remembered for his exploits on the pitch for Bournemouth, but also for his slightly unsuccessful managerial period at Dean Court.
Yeah. Is he's the only Northern Irish manager we've ever had, isn't he, at Dean Court? Yeah, he's the only one, because Sean O'Driscoll was Republic of Ireland. So I
Yeah,
think,
that's correct.
am I right? Am I right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about let's talk about his playing career. 46 caps, 12 goals. I probably saw about 7 or 8 of those live, the home ones. All the home ones I'd have seen. I saw him score against Republic of Ireland with a volley from 30 yards. It was in BBC's Goal of the Month. In fact, for one season, Jimmy Quinn actually scored, I think it was 41 goals for Reading at one point in the Football League. I don't remember if it was the old first or second division, but he did that. At Dean Court, he's almost a goal a game there, a goal every second game, sorry. And almost like these players that played together for Northern Ireland, like Jimmy Quinn and Colin Clark, was sometimes two strikers, but yet they played for the Cherries in different decades. You know, they missed each other by about 5 or 6 years. And I've stuck him at number 10 because as well he could play deep, but he was also a bit of a target man. I mean, him and Clarkey up front would have been one of my favorite things to watch as a kid, you know, in a stadium, because they were, they could run defenses. You know, Quinn would run that way and Clarkey would make some space, and then there'd be the defenders wouldn't know where to look. So pretty good from corners for headers. He scored penalties as well. Mm-hmm. So Jimmy Quinn, obviously for his playing career, as you know.
Yeah, definitely for the playing career. But this last choice for the starting 11 makes this front line pretty frightening. Mr. Warren Feeney.
Yeah. Brilliant. What I love as well is we spoke to Warren a few weeks ago on the show. If you haven't watched our interview on that, have a look at it. Warren is great crack. I mean, what a character. Few years at the Cherries, and he played with like Jermaine Defoe, Fletch, both Fletchers, obviously wee Fletch as he calls him, and then Stephen Purchase and all. You know, that sort of era with, I thought, is real characters around the club. Gareth O'Connor, all that. So Warren Feeney, a great character to have, and because we've already got the two strikers in there, I'd sort of be thinking I could fire Warren anywhere up front, and he'd run about for give 100% for 90 minutes for you. Great player, weighs in with goals, and what a guy. Obviously, I've met him face to face a few times, including at Dean Court, and I'm giving him the number 11 because that's almost a nice completion of my main 11 Cherries Northern Ireland footballers.
Yeah, I mean, he's unlucky with injuries at Dean Court, wasn't he? Obviously, he missed a lot of the 2003 season when obviously we won the playoffs that season. So obviously without those injuries, I'm sure you'd have added to his appearances and his goal tally at Bournemouth. But three of his goals for Northern Ireland were all in qualifiers for World Cup and Euros. So he scored some important goals for Northern Ireland, didn't he? I think one was a header, the equaliser against Denmark, was it?
3 of those goals were headers, which is brilliant
for
a small guy. He scored the header. Yeah. He scored a header against Slovenia. It's a brilliant goal. Cross came in and he glanced it and the keeper just couldn't get it. Keeper's going like that and it goes bottom corner. I probably did I see all of his international goals live in the stadium? I think I did. I was there for all of them. And one of them was against Portugal, where Cristiano Ronaldo didn't score. And that was a header as well. And then, the Denmark one was a header. He glanced it in. And also, I found this Cherries Hot Shots. And there we go. Yeah. Is that Sean? Is that Sean Mayer, isn't it?
Sean
Mayer.
It's
Sean Mayer. And then and then there's the you had to guess the other one. That's from 2003, I believe. And then I've got something else about Warren because obviously I know him because I've met him a few times. Warren's, yeah, because I was in Poland. This is the one I wanted to show. So this is a Polish program. Right? This is a Polish match program. And Poland that week played 2 teams in a week. So they played Azerbaijan, and then they played, as it says there, Irlandia Północna, which is Northern Ireland, in the same week. Now, there were 2 Cherries in this program, not just Warren Feeney. Matt, you know who the other one is. If it's Poland, Northern Ireland, who's the other Cherry in there?
That'd be Mr. Boric.
That's exactly right. We can have a look at him here because he's in the. They've got a picture of the squad. He looks quite young there. Can you see the Artur Boric? It's in there, yeah.
Yeah, there he is. Yeah, that was when he had his sort of shaven sides and mohawk style, wasn't it?
Yeah, about a decade before he joined AFCB. Well, yeah.
Was he at Celtic then?
No, he's at Legia Warsaw before he went. Yeah, he's at Legia.
Yeah, so quite some time then before Bournemouth.
Yeah, another thing about Artur Boric is this would be a good one. If there's any Northern Ireland fans watching this, which, I hope they will tune in as well, because it's quite topical for the Gawa, as we call them, the Green and White Army. But Artur Boric should probably be my goalkeeper. The reason is he made a mistake at Windsor Park, and we used to joke that he is Ulster's #1. We actually had a song about Artur Boric. Artur Boric, Ulster's #1. And if you watch that goal back, this is very funny. So if we could take Lee Camp out in a fantasy world, stick Artur Boric in, Warren Feeney was the player that went and celebrated like this after Boric's mistake. And actually, so it's interesting. So we played Poland a few times when Artur Boric was the keeper. Nice way sidetrack there. Anyway, that's the main 11.
That's the main 11. Now, the next choice is, well, not going to really be known to Bournemouth supporters, but is a very, very interesting character. Now, take it away, because obviously you know quite a bit about this guy. But he was part of AFC Bournemouth's youth setup during the mid-90s, wasn't he?
Yeah, I just love stories like this. I mean, right. So we a lot of us football fans that were around 70s and 80s will remember Zico from Brazil, right? Now, this guy's name is Ryan Zico Black. Now, is the word Zico there a coincidence? Well, it's clearly not. His dad was a massive fan of Zico. So his dad, when the baby's born, he wants to call the kid Zico, right? Well, what's a lady going to say to that? You know, you're growing up in Belfast, because he actually, I think he might have been born. I think he might have been born in Guernsey. Yeah, he was born in Channel Islands, but he grew up in Belfast because his dad was from Belfast. So very, very, very interesting character. I'd love to speak to him. I've never met him, but there was lots of crazy stuff going on at the time because we had a song at Northern Ireland games, which was "We're not Brazil, we're Northern Ireland." I don't know if you've heard that one, Matt. Have you heard us singing that before?
I don't think so. No.
Don't worry. It's basically the same as "Glory, Glory, Hallelujah." We're not Brazil, we're Northern Ireland. We're not Brazil, we're Northern Ireland. But it's all the same to me, etc.
Right. Okay.
It's been released on CD. Our journalist, one of our journalists and commentators, Jackie Fullerton from Ballymena, he released it as a CD, which is brilliant. I've got the CD. I don't have it on me here. It's probably over there somewhere. But a story about Ryan Zico Black. If there's any Cherries listening and they don't know the story, the truth is neither really do we. So, you know, it's a great one. I love that mystery with it. He obviously had a trial at Bournemouth. He was in the youth. A name like Zico, you're going to go, wow. Let's get this guy. Let's see what this guy's like, you know. And he's actually played for Northern Ireland under-18s and under-21s. And he's also played, I believe he's played for Guernsey at some level. I don't know whether it's friendly or something. So I would even stick him in the same bracket as Dudley Milligan here because he's played for 2 countries. Or Lee Camp was also England, Northern Ireland. And I might tell you something that you don't know, but we'll see, Matt. So I've got another fact about Ryan Zico Black is, right, Ryan Zico Black has scored a goal in the Maracana Stadium in Brazil. Did you know that?
No. How did that come about?
Okay. Well, there was some match organized, I don't know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, and they were looking at players that were like on the fringe or had something crazy going on that could go to Brazil for this friendly match. And for whatever reason, Ryan Zico Black was one of those players that was chosen. I don't know who he was with at the time or why he was one of the players, but he ended up going to Brazil. And there's a brilliant article on the BBC. I remember I knew about it before the BBC published it, because in one of the Northern Ireland forums it was written a Northern Irish guy scores against I don't know, some team in the Maracana. It was only a friendly game, but it doesn't matter. If I scored at the Maracana, I'm having it. Even if I scored,
Yeah.
at half in a Subbuteo game or something. So Zico Black, great story. Check it out if you get a chance, all of you. Scored in the Maracana, and he's called Zico. He's played for Guernsey, he's played for Northern Ireland. Okay, not full level caps, but he was also at the Cherries. I would almost say he's more of a where did it all go wrong than George Best. But I'd love to hear his story. Would love to get him on, and yeah, brilliant. And he knows obviously Warren Feeney, Chris Tardif, so he's played with a few Cherries that'll also be featuring in the Northern Ireland squad.
Yeah. I mean, fascinating story, like you say. I think you're absolutely spot on there. It's kind of a career maybe of what happened, what went wrong. But he did make over 100 appearances for Morecambe, and he scored 14 times for them. But yeah, he's played for a hell of a lot of clubs. When you look at his stats, he's played for a hell of a lot of clubs.
Yeah, just on that, I wonder, did he play against Bournemouth for Morecambe? We played him quite a few times, didn't we, around that era? Worth checking.
Yeah, we did. I think I've got his stuff just here. Literally on. There we go. What year? 1999 to 2003. He was at.
So no, we didn't play Morecambe in those days, did we? Yeah.
Would have missed him, but yeah, I mean, he's been everywhere. Barrow, Lancaster,
Shrimpers.
Kettering.
Did I get that right? Is it the
say again,
Shrimpers?
sorry? The
We call them
Shrimpers.
the Shrimpers. Did I get? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And what's Southend? What's Southend? Southend. Are they also the Shrimpers then?
I thought they were the Shrimps, weren't they? You got the Shrimpers.
Yeah, so it's Shrimps and Shrimpers. Yeah. You're right. That's what it is. Yeah.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, he's played for a lot of clubs like Lancaster, Kettering Town, Northwich Victoria, Bamber Bridge, AFC Clyde, Guernsey, like yourself, Vale Recreation. So yeah, like you say, it would be a very, very interesting to hear his story in full, wouldn't it? I think he does coaching now. I think he might be on LinkedIn, but I might be wrong. I might be wrong on that.
Yeah, and there's also something curious about this is that in this series, because obviously this is the first series we're doing, which is like, players that were at the Cherries national team. We've obviously started with Northern Ireland tonight in a series, but if people are watching, they'll know that we're going to get to Scotland, England, Wales, etc. And when we get through the other countries, who knows if there might be like a random Channel Islanders thing. We might hear from Ryan Zico Black again. It may not be the last we hear from him.
Yeah, because there is quite a Guernsey connection, isn't there, with Bournemouth? I mean, you can think of Brett Pittman and Alex Scott being two that have got Guernsey connections. So yeah, that will be an interesting one. So
Guernsey jersey and then Isle of Wight.
Yeah, and I don't think Yeah. I mean, I don't think like you say, we've seen the last of Mr. Black because I think he will crop up again in one of the others during the series. But next choice, a goalkeeper. Alan Bellany.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, the number 13 was always a keeper because like the first few games that I'd went to watch Glentoran, it would have been you'd have had a 14. There'd have been 14 players, right? So you had your 11, you had a number 12 and a 14, and then there was a keeper. That's the way it always was when I was a kid. And the keeper rarely came on. Like basically that reserve goalkeeper he might play the odd cup match or if there's an injury or red cards. We didn't get many red cards or injuries in those days. So I stuck him at number 13. And actually that's funny because he was a bit unlucky in his career, but also at Northern Ireland he played in our. I'm just going to say we lost to the Republic of Ireland. I won't mention the score, but we lost. So, and
Right,
he played in
okay.
that game. So we'll stick Alan Blaney on loan. He won't be remembered at Dean Court either. 2 appearances, and he was on loan from like a smaller team on the south coast. Shall we say?
Yeah, the pub team down the road. But
We can move on.
yeah,
Actually, yeah.
he's like you say, not going to be too well remembered. Right, yes, this one is another name, a bit of a blast from the past, shall we say?
Yeah. Only 3 appearances on loan. I thought it was more than that. I probably watched all 3 of those then around that time because I was a season ticket around 05, 06 or 06 or 07, both seasons actually. Fordyce, I dug something out about Fordyce actually. Hold on.
Oh,
See if I
okay.
can find that. This is a match I was at, Bangor versus Glentoran in the
Okay.
Irish League, right?
Mhm.
Should I hold it up again? Wait a minute. Where's the date? Have you got? Is the date on that? Yeah. Just give the year.
2000, is that 2009?
2009 or 2008. I was 2008. I was at the game.
Yeah.
But this lad, Daryl Fordyce, I used to call him Forsyth. Bruce Forsyth, remember?
Yeah.
Daryl Fordyce played in that game. I think he scored, but that's I can't be sure that he scored, but he's in the where's the yeah. So have a look at there's the panels. So I got to go to the away team. Because Glentoran played away that day.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, is that on there? Where am I going? Yeah, it's Glentoran. That's the away team. Fordyce is on there somewhere, isn't he? Yeah. So I was at that game.
Yeah.
So I've seen Daryl Fordyce play in a professional match, 2 different countries. And it almost passed me by. I almost sort of forgot it happened, but yeah, he did what he did in his football career, and I love the fact that he's gone on to manage in Canada. I mean, what a story that's another one of these random stories, Matt. I don't know where we're getting these brilliant stories from, but
No, these kind of stories really interest me because how has he gone from being at Pompey, representing Northern Ireland and then managing in the Canadian Premier League? It's good. I mean, every player's got their journey, haven't they? And some are really, really interesting. And I think this would be one of the stories, a little bit like Ryan Zico Black, that you'd want to.
There's one more thing.
Yeah.
There's one more thing about Daryl Fordyce, and obviously the viewers can check this up. But he was dropped at one point by the Northern Ireland under-21s team for some event that happened on YouTube, let's just say, or it might have been uploaded or something. So it could be, it's one for people to check out. It might be on there still, or it might be, but it'll be somewhere online. You'll find out. You'll know what I mean.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I'll as soon as we finish with this, I should have a look, see if I can find it.
Yeah.
It's, number 15, another goalkeeper. One that some Bournemouth fans should possibly remember. Dave Wells. I remember him from being in the youth side, and I'm pretty certain he was an understudy to Jimmy Glass for a little while.
Mm.
But yeah, another player he's played quite, around the country, around the UK quite a lot. But is it right that he was called up to squads but wasn't capped?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. He was in the match program as their second or third choice goalkeeper. We had a bit of a goalkeeper crisis at one point. He was definitely an unused sub. Yeah, he was definitely an unused sub. Um, it's funny. It's funny he was called up to under 21 and not capped. He must have been an unused sub as well in the under 21s. That's quite a rare thing. It's a bit sad that he didn't get at least one of those in an appearance. Or maybe he did, or maybe he played for like under 18s or under 19 or something. But yeah, Dave, I've never met him and I don't know a lot about him. The Jimmy Glass thing is probably more interesting from perspective of the construction industry, because if you can make wells and you can make glass, you've got you've got a good career in construction, right? And also the Dorchester thing's brilliant. Another wee Cherries link in there that he also played for Dorchester, which when Warren Feeney was on, we sort of touched on Dorchester, playing Dorchester as a home stadium. And then he played in the Irish League for some cool teams there, Newry City and Cliftonville. Cliftonville is the oldest club in Ireland, so another accolade on his CV. Nice one.
You learn something new every day. Yeah, like I say, I do remember him from being in the match day programs and things like that back in the day. But what a retro goalkeeper's kit there, that Bournemouth Frizzell one. I think that's
I think
that's the great escape. That would be some shirt to have. I mean, I'm pretty certain that's the great escape.
Well, it is a match winner. It's definitely a match winner, isn't it?
It's definitely a match winner. It definitely is.
Yeah,
definitely is. Well, let's move on to your next choice. Billy Lung. Is it Lung? How do you pronounce that? Sorry, I pronounced it wrong. Cool.
Lung. And I'll tell you something about the surname as well. That surname is quite famous in Northern Ireland. We had Lunns as a jeweler, so they were making rings and watches, and they were selling them. Obviously, there's not a lot of gold in Northern Ireland. We've obviously maybe imported it from somewhere, but Lunns was a jewelers, so many people got engaged with the Lunns. And also, the surname Lunn has a lot of Northern Ireland players down the years. But this guy Billy Lunn, I remember a friend told me about him years ago, and it sort of stuck in my mind. But that's a really good record at Dean Court when he was at Bournemouth and Boscombe, as we were called in the 40s and early 50s up until the name change. 47 appearances, 19 goals, Matt. Whoa. I mean, what would we do? I mean, are we talking Dominic Solanke level here?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, was he a forward? Because back in those days, back in those days, they were classed as forwards, weren't they?
So we don't call them forwards anymore. It was like 5 forwards. Yeah.
You used to have four forwards, didn't you? Or 5 forwards.
Yeah.
And,
4 or 5 forwards, yeah.
Was he more of a winger type player, or was he more of a central player? But, I mean, what a goal ratio. I mean, it's great, isn't it? I mean, you definitely could do with his kind of goal ratio in the side this season. But yeah, I mean, he plays for some big clubs as well. I mean, in terms of West Brom, and he lived in Bournemouth, after his playing days. So he obviously must have liked the town and continued to live here after he finished playing. So definitely, like you say, great goal scoring ratio there. It's just a shame I couldn't get a better photo of him, because that photo there doesn't really do him justice. But difficult to find these photos of the older players, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm just thinking there's a couple of extra things I'll add there. The first one is that if anyone in Bournemouth does have the surname of Lunn, because where did that come from? I don't even know, because is it a Northern Irish thing, or was it Scottish or English? I don't know where the surname come from, but it's quite popular where I'm from to have a surname of Lunn.
Oh, okay.
With the LUNN. Yeah, we've had a few down the years that played professional football and also played for Northern Ireland. And the other thing is, I'll give a shout out to a guy called Jonny Dewart, and it's spelled Dewart or Dewart. It's Dewart, and he runs an online Northern Ireland blog, which is related to football. He's a massive football fan. He's a Northern Ireland and Spurs fan, and he's been running that site for years and years. And he's the one that they end up. That's how we found the Billy Lunn, this pen pick from a cigarette packet in the 1940s or whenever. I don't even know where that was taken. So if anyone can help us with info on Billy Lunn, apart from Jonny Dewart, my mate from Northern Ireland, we'd appreciate it.
So the website that we've been using for little bits of facts and stuff is someone then, that website?
If it was at NIFG that you were on,
Yeah.
That's Johnny Dewar. Yeah, it's because him and I bounce ideas off each other sometimes. I contributed a bit to the site, and he does the same to me. He'll give me some random stat about. He's a good one to follow on Twitter. I can't remember his Twitter username, or as Elon Musk will obviously want to call it, X these days. But he's on there. He's a great guy. He's a proper football geek, and that's the sort of people that bring these facts out.
Yeah, no, definitely. What you'll have to do, Johnny, is drop his Twitter into the comments when the videos are all out. So and then people can check him out, because it sounds like obviously, like you say, he knows his stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
This is an interesting one. Obviously, the picture of the gentleman here, Billy Hughes, is circled. Another one from the 50s era for Bournemouth. But yeah, Johnny, Billy Hughes, what facts have you got on Billy?
Yeah, very interesting photo there. The reason is there were 2 Northern Ireland badges on the kits, and then there were 2 Republic of Ireland badges, because there was one point where we had a dispute over who's the original Ireland team, who's the Northern Ireland, who's Republic of Ireland. So a lot of players ended up being capped for both countries because FIFA and UEFA had to sort out the problem. Yeah, in those days it was one of those issues, and I think we still have sometimes people, kids switch. Obviously, England has the same issue with Declan Rice and Jackie Grealish, and Billy Hughes would have been for me. He only played for Northern Ireland, but obviously, if you're an Irish boy in those days going over to England and playing, you'd have been mates with the other Irish guys. It didn't matter if they were North or South. Probably you'd have had some friends there. And yeah, his story, I'm just wondering, are we maybe doing a bit of an injustice to some of these older players? Maybe Billy Hughes would make the first team because we never saw him play. There's no YouTube videos. Maybe we could sneak him into the first 11. But so I'd probably bring him on as sub, because he scored a goal for the Cherries, 16 appearances, and he didn't really get a chance for Northern Ireland. So I'm sticking him on as sub at some point. Billy Hughes, second half, put him on. And he also played for my home city club, which is Bangor. So brilliant. I'd love to know about his story.
Yeah. No, it's like you say, it's interesting when you dive back into history, and like you say, no footage of these players, and it's a shame, isn't it, really, that we can't see any footage of them, because it'd be interesting to see how they would compare to the likes of Mr. Feeney, Mr. Quinn, and Mr. Clark, wouldn't it? But definitely another interesting one from the archives. Another one, Hugh Davey. Again, great goal scoring ratio.
Dom Solanke is, we're putting Callum Wilson, Josh King, Dom Solanke, we're sticking them all in the same bracket as Hugh Davey. We'll be singing, "Are you Hugh Davey in disguise? Are you the new Hugh Davey?" Evan Nielsen needs to score a few more goals here. Do you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
I mean, 43 appearances, 22 goals. I'm not sure what division we were in. Probably Division 3 South at that time.
Um,
Or
yeah,
even
yeah,
it would have been. But it's around the 100 years where we were a league club, football league.
yeah.
Obviously.
We had the anniversary, didn't we, last year? Because I went to the dinner at
Yeah,
Dean Court. So that was
yeah.
2023. So yeah, just as the club become a league club. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and also scored for his country, and only got 5 caps because probably we only played about 5 or 6 games in the 1920s. I mean, Uruguay didn't even host the World Cup to 1930. So in those years, like, what were we doing? We'd probably just playing down the park for a bit of fun, apart from the British Championships. So he's probably played a few British Championships, the home internationals, and then that would be it. That's it.
Yeah, and a player that was born in 1897.
Is that the only player on the list that was born two centuries ago?
I think so. I think the rest are. I think the other one that we've had is 1916. I think is the earliest one before
Yeah.
this guy.
So they both survived the First World War. And
Hmm.
also the year Hugh Davy died there, that's quite a nice one for Northern Irish fans because we beat Spain in the World Cup in 1982 and we won the group and we got through the group and he got to see that, at least he got to live during it because he died in September of that year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Another unfortunate picture there. That's the best we could get. But
Yeah.
yeah, number 19. Oh no, I told a lie, Johnny. When I did think
Oh
about
yeah.
this guy, Joe Miller, 1899.
Yeah, we were researching so much here that we actually we got lost in the like random facts. That's another brilliant story. I love the badge on that kit. That's sort of the old Northern Ireland, because we've kept the Celtic cross, the Celtic cross, if you like. We used to have a harp in the middle until
Oh,
we got
okay.
this. Yeah, there's a harp in that one, and I've actually
Hmm.
got I'll show you here. I've got my old Mexico '86. So that's my first ever Northern Ireland scarf that I got. I was
Yeah.
I was only 6 back in Mexico '86, and yeah, I still love that one because that was the first one that I was cheering the country on. And yeah, so Joe Miller, yeah, 81 appearances, no goals. My guess here is he's a defender. Have you got the stats on where
Yes,
he
yes.
must be
He
a
was.
defender?
Yeah, he was a. I've got it here. He was, I believe. There it is. He was Irish footballer. Oh, he was classed as a wing half.
Okay. Maybe he just got the balls into the box and everyone else scored them then. Yeah.
No, I think he was, the provider of goals. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Um, yeah.
Unless the
So,
history stats aren't completely right. Obviously, it's a long time ago,
yeah.
but yeah, that's all I could find.
A few other big clubs in there.
Mm.
Obviously Hibs is a massive club in Edinburgh, and Middlesbrough as well. They've spent a lot of time in the top tier and they've been in a European final as well. So fair play to Joe Miller. Probably bring him on as sub as well.
Yeah, yeah. If you need a provider of goals, he's your man. By the sounds of it.
That's it.
Um.
No assists because we don't have the assists record in those days. Just to
Of course.
clarify that, it was
Yes. Of
no
course.
goals, but I think he had 47 assists in those games.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. That's probably
yeah,
right. Um. Curtis Allen. Now, I do remember him being part of the youth setup.
yeah.
And I got a funny feeling he might have ended up with a squad number, and I think he might have been on the bench for Bournemouth's first team, if memory serves me right. But yeah, he seems to be a bit of a legend in sort of the Irish Premier League. I think he's played for quite a few
Yeah.
clubs out there.
he's moved around a lot. I have a wee story about Curtis Allen. And it's funny that Leyton Orient is mentioned there, because they're part of the story. So I went to Brisbane Road, Matchroom Stadium, whatever you call it, in Leyton, in London. Cherries were playing. We had a Saturday afternoon game, 3 p.m. kickoff. We either lost 3-2 or 4-2 or 4-3. I don't know if you've got a good mind for stats, but I was at that game, and we'd had a few drinks before the game. Anyway, I was with the Cherries fans on a nice wee pub. Leyton Orient's a nice wee ground, actually. I quite like it. And the Bournemouth youth team just happened to be, I don't know, were they training with the first team, or were they just up in London for the day? And so I'm standing there with a Northern Ireland flag out, dancing up and down a bit and stuff like that, as you do. And there's a guy looking at me. I'm thinking, because I'd heard that Curtis Allen was a Northern Irish guy in the squad. I thought, that must be Curtis. I'll go over and ask him, are you Curtis? And he goes, yeah. And he shook my hand. He must have been quite young then.
Yeah.
I don't know whether he'd been like 14, 15 or 16. I don't know how old he was then. But he shook my hand. I had a wee chat to him. And I said to him, look, stick at it, mate. If you you can beat like Warren Feeney or Colin Clark, because we'd Northern Irish boys over. And then I've seen him again a few years later. He played for Glentoran, which is my Northern Irish team. He ended up scoring quite a few goals for the Glens. He won the Irish Cup. And yeah, he's still got loads of he played for Coleraine and a few of the teams, and Carrick Rangers. It looks like Wolverhampton Wanderers there.
Yes.
But it's not, because Carrick used to play in quite a brighter orange, like a Netherlands style orange, but they've made their kit a bit more Wolvesy. But Curtis, I'd love to get him in the show. He's probably got some good memories from Bournemouth. Obviously, he lived down in Dorset, and trained with some of the really good players that we had back in those days. 06, 07. We had some great players then.
Yeah, and I was right. He was allocated a shirt number.
What number was he?
And a shirt number that became quite famous. The number 33.
Oh, who am I thinking of then? Have I missed that? No.
Steve Fletcher, wasn't it? Number 33.
Oh, yeah.
That's the shirt number he wore when he scored against Grimsby, wasn't it?
That's right, because he came back. Because I was remembering his first spell, and then
Number 10,
30. I was thinking 33. What? That's got something in my mind. Wow.
Yeah. So
he was
actually
there a
allocated.
few years. Yeah.
Yeah, actually allocated to number 33. Yeah. I thought he had. I do remember seeing his name on the back of the program. I do remember.
Yeah, I've got that program somewhere as well. I was looking at programs. If I'd have looked a bit harder, I would have found one with Curtis Allen in it. But yeah, I think he played Northern Ireland. Because let me just check something. I've got Northern Ireland there's an under 21 international against Wales. But I think that was too young it was too early for Curtis to be in it. But that's a coincidence. Darryl Fordyce is in that one.
Oh, is he?
There you go. Yeah, that's a bit of it. That's the second Darryl Fordyce reference. In a program there, he's in that one as well. He gets around.
Yeah, Portsmouth. Yeah, I can see. Yeah, how old was he then?
At the time.
20.
Yeah, because it's the under 21. So we played Wales, obviously. I was at that game actually as well. Because we used to play. Oh, there's another one. That is random. Can't believe it. I've just checked the Wales team. That is really random. Have a look at this. Look at who's in the Wales squad there.
Let me see if I can spot it. Which
is it? Wait a minute.
That's it. Sean McDonald.
Yeah, but there's another one.
Sam Vokes.
Exactly, that's it. But Sean McDonald doesn't have a club in brackets there, I noticed.
No. He did spend... He was at Swansea, wasn't he? And he spent quite a long time on loan at Yeovil, I think.
That's an interesting one. He doesn't have a club. Yeah. I mean, It's rare to find that in a program. That's a nice wee program to have. And that official souvenir program, just for the record, because we did prices earlier, was £1.
Pound. God.
I personally think that's a really good one to have because as you saw, I've got Daryl Fordyce and Vokesy in there, and then I've got Sean McDonald as a bonus without a club.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love collecting stuff, so that's another one for the collection. So cheers, Curtis Allen, on to number 21.
Number 21, and a name that will be well remembered, I think, in the Bournemouth folklore. Josh McCoy.
Yeah. The hat trick thing. We've got to talk about hat tricks here, Matt. Do you remember the hat trick thing?
Didn't he score 2 hat tricks in consecutive games for Bournemouth and then score a hat trick get pushed into the first squad for Northern Ireland?
Yeah, he scored what? Because so the two hat tricks in a week or in consecutive games for Cherries obviously happened.
Yeah.
He scored. I know you've put there Northern Ireland 5 caps, no goals. That is true at full level, but he scored a few under 21 or under 19 or something. But he scored against Scotland away, and I watched it. I actually watched it with an ex-girlfriend in a bar in Bournemouth, and I actually managed to get them to put it on. It was on TV. It was like, I don't know whether it was Victory Shield or it was just an under 19 or under 21 game, but they stuck it on, and I was going mad in the bar, dancing up and down, like losing 3-1 to Scotland, or something like that. But Josh McCoy had scored, or sometimes your memory's a bit hazy, but that seems to be the story that I have.
Yeah. No, he's great player, and another one that was destined to obviously play at a higher level, and he did. He obviously went on to play for Millwall, didn't he? And then returned back to Bournemouth. Had a few loan spells like Burnley. He's played for Luton, Aldershot, and now he's at Weymouth. Another Northern Ireland player that's at Weymouth. And actually, he was at the last home game. Him and Sam Vokes were sat 2 rows in front of me at the last home game, which was nice to see.
That's a nice wee link to the program thing about Vokesy being in there. And Vokes, of course, scored in a major tournament. That's because we're doing a major tournament squad here. This is if I'm taking Northern Ireland to a major tournament with Cherries only players, this is my squad. So anyway, let's go to number 22. Yeah.
Number 22. Tommy Casey.
Yeah. Right. I have a few stories about this. The first one is my mum comes from Cumber in Northern Ireland, which is I love that town. It's a wee farming, old, like sleepy town, but it's great. It's got a few bars. It's got a football club called Cumber Rec, who've never been in the top 2 or 3 tiers. And it's got potatoes. And our potatoes in Cumber are protected by the European Union. Well, they still are, even after Brexit, as these potatoes are unique because of the soil in Cumber. And that part of Northern Ireland is where Tommy Casey was born. Cumber has actually produced a few Northern Ireland internationals down the years. There was another fella at Newcastle in the 70s. Again, my mind escapes me tonight. I'm forgetting these guys. Oh gosh, he's got a really common name as well. So Cumber produced a few Northern Ireland internationals, and Tommy Casey, came from my mum's town, but he was born like quite a bit before my mum was. But if you were that famous, you were known. Like people would know you about the town. Gosh, who was the Newcastle guy? That's going to haunt me. I'll remember it later. And also, Tommy Casey played in the World Cup. So in 1958, there's a really crazy one about this. In 1958, in the World Cup, Northern Ireland played 5 games. 2 of them were against Czechoslovakia, because in those days, if you finished level on points in a group stage, you had a playoff. So we beat Czechoslovakia 1-0 in the group. Then we had to play them again in a bloody playoff to get through to the quarterfinal. So we're like,
God.
we ended up playing Czechoslovakia again, and we beat them. The second time they went 1-0 up, and then we came back and beat them 2-1 in extra time. So we did have extra time then. But what's interesting is for the first 4 games in that tournament, Northern Ireland played a different striker up front, and in those days that was unheard of. You'd play the same team every week, every match. We played 4 different strikers. So Derek Dugan played the first game and was never played again in the tournament because the manager thought he didn't do enough, even though we beat Czechoslovakia. So second game, we played Faye Coyle, decent player, did all right. But again, the manager thought we need to play a different striker. So third game, we played a different striker. Can't remember who the third game was, or he shifted it about. So our main target man, and then Tommy Casey took the place for either the 4th or 5th game. So 5 games, we had 4 different players, and Tommy Casey's only World Cup appearance was that one. And he came from Cumber. Now, bear with me. There's another story with that. Is that later in life, so my mum's from Cumber, but she met my dad, obviously, and that's why I'm here. Convenient. But my dad had Tommy Casey as his manager. So Tommy Casey was also a manager, but Tommy Casey didn't like my dad as when he was manager, and my dad still talks about that. So it's kind of. And then I said to my dad, look, Tommy Casey played in the World Cup. Maybe he had a bad day or a bad season or whatever. And my dad ended up moving clubs because of Tommy Casey. But I see that as a blessing in disguise because my dad became a better player at Dunmurry Rec, where he ended up, which, he's still got his photo on the wall or whatever when you go. So, so Tommy Casey, World Cup, from the same place as my mom, managed my dad but didn't like him, and then I know I'm sticking him in the squad because he played in the World Cup anyway. 22, Tommy Casey, go for it.
That's it. Yes, and a centre midfielder, I believe.
He could play up front as well, though. That's why they stuck
Really?
him up front because he's big. Yeah, I think they stuck him as a number. But as we said, Matt, in those days it was like 5 forwards.
Yeah.
So because everyone talks about Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard scoring loads of goals from midfield, right? But what sort of a midfielder are they? They're forward. They're forward midfielders. So it's the same as, apparently Maradona wasn't a striker. He's an attacking midfielder then. So Tommy Casey was an attacking midfielder, I would say.
Excellent. Well, the final choice for your 23-man squad is another goalkeeper, Chris Tardif.
Now, people will be laughing. I know that. I'm from Northern Ireland. I support the Cherries. And you'll have noticed that's the 4th goalkeeper in our squad, right? Why is that? Well, for a start, we were running out of ideas, perhaps, but I thought I'd do a 23, and I didn't want to leave Tardif out. And also, if we're playing in a major tournament, we might be put in a group with Brazil, South Korea, and Cameroon. I mean, we're not going to survive that if you're a Northern Ireland fan. So to have 4 goalkeepers, you might need them at some point, or you might at least need practice. They might need practice in the training. So there's 4 keepers in the squad. Sorry about that, anyone that wanted to be. So I've literally left out loads of defenders and midfielders to stick the Chris Tardif in. Another Pompey one here on loan from Pompey. We've had a few of them tonight. And also the Guernsey one's brilliant here. He also played for Guernsey. So, yeah. I don't know. Did you see him live, Matt? Did you see him play?
Yeah. Now, if I remember rightly, I don't know if you remember. Do you ever remember Marcus Browning having to go and goal?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
On 2 occasions.
Yeah. Oh, twice, did he? Yeah.
And it was both times, if I remember rightly, was because Chris Tardif got injured.
I didn't know it was both times. I definitely remember the second one.
I think it was. I'm
Yeah,
pretty certain it was both times. I might be wrong, but
that's brilliant.
yeah, and
That's a great story. That is.
because I think
Yeah.
Chris Tardif, because around this time, this was before Neil Moss come back. It was the
Mm,
season that we obviously got promoted back to the old Division 2,
mm.
the playoff final win. And I think we had Gareth Stewart, who was injured. And I think we drafted in a couple of goalkeepers that season. That might have been the same season. Was it the same season we drafted in Alan Belaney and then he got injured and had to go back to
It
Saints?
might have been. It,
And
it
then
could have been the same season. Although
and
Alan
then
Glennie
Chris
wasn't.
Tardif come
Yeah.
in. I think Chris Tardif come in, and then eventually they went back in and got Mossy to come back, if I remember rightly. I know there was quite a lot of goalkeepers that season, if I
Mhm.
remember rightly. But yeah,
Sometimes you have a goalkeeper crisis, but I mean, this season at Dean Court is already a bit crazy because we had the whole like link to Ramsdale thing, and then Rambo ends up leaving Arsenal, and we end up giving Arsenal like an ex-Barcelona goalkeeper like Neto, and then suddenly we've got Kepa, and goalkeepers are always crazy. So to have four of them in the squad, I think it might be all right. I think we can have a bit of banter in there with that. So actually, that completes my 23
that does.
of Northern Ireland squad with AFCB. So yeah, if I or you, Matt, left anyone out, obviously people can comment and tell us.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
sure if we left anyone decent out there.
Don't think so. But there was a couple that you refused to include, if I remember
Yeah,
rightly.
so I've dropped these guys. Yeah, I've dropped
Yeah.
them. Yeah, let's have a look.
And there's reasons why.
Yeah, so as we've spoken a few times on this channel and on many football forums the last few years, you've got the likes of Declan Rice. I mean, it was Declan Rice and Jack Grealish when they went to Dublin and they scored the 2 goals. You had Republic of Ireland fans complaining that they used to be Irish and now they're English, and then you had English fans saying, well, actually they were born in England, so they're English. There's this whole to and from different countries. And of course, that's not unique. There's lots of countries that have had this issue. There's even brothers. Is it the Williams brothers in Spain? I
Yeah.
think one plays for Spain and one plays for an African country.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get back to this. So Ewan O'Kane and Mark Wilson. Every Cherries fan that is watching this will be aware of these players. O'Kane scored against Wigan. Matt, you remember the Wigan goal?
Yeah, remember that? That was
Yeah.
FA Cup, I think. Was that the equaliser, or did we go 1-0 up?
I think we might have went 1-0 up. It was 1-1 then, and there's a replay, wasn't there?
That's right.
But
Yeah,
actually, Wigan won the FA Cup that year.
that's correct. We were knocked out by the
Yeah.
holders. Yeah,
Yeah,
or the
exactly.
eventual winners. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So Ewan O'Kane, and around that time, Ewan O'Kane had a decision to make. Is he Northern Irish or Southern Irish, or as people say, from the Republic of Ireland? Now, Ewan O'Kane had already been. So he basically, these two players that we see on the screen right now, Ewan O'Kane and Mark Wilson, that is beyond. That's a fact. They were born in the territory that is the 6 counties in Northern Ireland. They grew up there, got their football education, days on the streets were spent in Northern Ireland. They were both capped by Northern Ireland at a certain level. I don't know whether it was up to like under 15, under 16, under 17. And then when the going got tough or good, they jumped ship to the Republic of Ireland. So sorry, guys, you're not good enough to be in my squad. You might have made it on a different day. And because of that, I wouldn't put you in the Republic of Ireland squad either, because I'm into my boys are loyal. I've got 23 players in our squad there that we've just gone through, and even the likes of Ryan Zico Black. If I give him a call, he's going to turn up. There we go.
Well, that concludes the squad, but just for a little bit of fun, just to conclude, You've got a choice now of former Cherries managers that would be most suited to manage this team of players. So the managers that you can choose from are as follows. John Bond, Alex Stock, David Webb, Harry Redknapp, Tony Pulis, Mel Machin, Sean O'Driscoll, Kevin Bond, Jimmy Quinn, Eddie Howe, Scott Parker, Gary O'Neill, or Mr. Warren Feeney. So which, if you had to pick a manager out of that little lot, who would you go with?
You know, I didn't know you were going to do this, because it's funny. I was thinking, could we stick someone in as a player manager there? I've just noticed though, two of the players you've mentioned there are already in the squad. So it's like Jimmy Quinn's already in the squad. Warren Feeney's already in there. So because of that, I'm not going to choose them. Because I want my best boys on the pitch. If I'm a supporter of that team. Obviously, Jimmy Quinn, I don't want Cherries fans to think of him as his legacy before Eddie Howe. Well, the no-brainer is Eddie Howe there, but Eddie Howe is quite focused with, Bournemouth, Newcastle United, England. He obviously played under 21s. He's been linked with England job. I'm not sure Eddie Howe would really want to deal with George Best on a good day out. But that's a good debate. Actually, Matt, can I throw it back to you, and then I'll think of my answer. Who would you pick here?
Well, obviously, I've put Warren Feeney in. Yes, he isn't a former Bournemouth manager, but Warren was going to be joining us for this show tonight, but unfortunately couldn't join us. So that's why I included Warren Feeney just as just to throw it at him. But me personally, an interesting one. I would go with someone, I like you say, with characters like George Best. Someone's got to be able to keep him in line. I'm kind of thinking a Tony Pulis.
Could be.
But then again, he is Welsh, but that doesn't really matter, does it? But
Tony Pulis is brilliant on talk shows. Like when you hear him interviewed, I just think the guy knows a hell of a lot about football. Actually, Tony Pulis is a big fan of Johnny Evans as well. So but do you know what? I've made my decision, and it might be controversial though, because Sean O'Driscoll is Republic of Ireland, but I love the way we played under O'Driscoll. And Warren Feeney bigged him up. Warren Feeney was like, O'Driscoll was class. He had these like random tactics that he'd throw into you, and he'd made you think about the game. And I don't know too much about the earlier Bond, John Bond, because I was watching when Kevin was boss. Harry Redknapp's too obvious. I don't want to see Louise on social media, his was it daughter-in-law, or well, it was, I don't know, but so I'll leave out. So I'm gonna let's do it a matter of elimination. The Bonds are out because stick him in with James Bond. David Webb, David Webb's a good shot though. Played in the scored in the FA Cup final. Scott Parker lost 9-0 to Liverpool, not having it. Gary O'Neill. No, oh gosh.
This is quite a tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's go. It's Tony Pulis, David Webb, Sean O'Driscoll, I think.
David Webb was a promotion-winning Bournemouth manager. So was Sean O'Driscoll. Pulis had a difficult reign at Bournemouth, but was a class manager.
In the end, he proved his worth.
Exactly. Yeah. Tricky.
No, because Northern Ireland has always been a tough team to manage because the fans know that we're normally not going to qualify, but when we get a win against someone big like Spain or Sweden, everyone goes nuts and thinks that we have a divine right to beat everyone. I'm going to kick someone with the feet on the ground. Let's go, Sean O'Driscoll.
Sean O'Driscoll. Right, so Sean O'Driscoll will be the manager of your Northern Ireland squad. Interesting squad pick. Great to hear, obviously, what you've known about these players, and not many squads you see with 4 goalkeepers in, but it's a unique squad, isn't it? To put it lightly.
Big Pat Jennings hands. I've actually got I've got a Lego. That's a Lego Martin O'Neill there. Sorry, Michael O'Neill.
Michael O'Neill. Yeah.
Michael O'Neill is in NBA, and I've got him as the Lego character. There you go. Nice wee souvenir that. I've actually got George Best of Lego as well, but he's not in a Bournemouth kit, unfortunately. We'll have to get a James Hater one or something made at some point.
Yes, definitely. Well, that's going to conclude our part 1. For the next international break, we're going to be taking a look at Wales. So Bournemouth players that have played for Wales, exactly the same format as what we've done tonight with Northern Ireland. So that will be an interesting one. That will be during the next international break, which I believe commences on the 16th of November. So it will be that week that we will look at the Welsh players. But yeah, it's been a great chat tonight, Jonny. I learned a lot. Like you say, who knew that where penalties were invented, for example. But just before we go, we've got Guess the Cherry, haven't we? So from these clues here, born in Camberley, 1980, came through the youth system at Bournemouth, captained Bournemouth to the playoff final win, signed for West Ham, played in the FA Cup final known as the Gerrard final, played for Wales at full international level, and had a short spell as Leyton Orient manager. Now, Jonny, do you want to have a guess, or do you know?
Yeah, but I know who it is. I know who it is. Yeah.
So
should I say it?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to use what Warren Feeney calls him, wee Fletch, because Feeney, you know, when we spoke to Feeney a few weeks ago, he was like, "Oh, it's wee Fletch," and then I realized that they, you know, in those days, because we had 2 Fletchers, so it's obviously Carl Fletcher. I mean, 2 goals at the Millennium was a giveaway. I'd forgotten about the Gerrard final, but the 2 goals at the Millennium, no one will forget that.
No, definitely not. But yeah, it's been a interesting cherry picking, and I thank you, Jonny, for coming along and bringing all your box of tricks with you. Should I say? You've always got something up your sleeve to show us, and hopefully you'll be able to join us for the Wales one next month.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, should be good. Yeah. Good crack. So best of luck to all the Cherries players that are playing international football.
Yeah.
In the break. We'll get loads of players now doing it. So and even an ex-Cherry, Dom Solanke's in the England squad. So who knows?
Yeah, hopefully Dom does get a cap. Be nice to see. Obviously, you know, I don't know if you've seen many of his games at Spurs so far, but the games I've seen him play, I think he's thoroughly deserved his place. Should have been called up while he was at Bournemouth, but
exactly,
that's how the cookie crumbles. Yeah. But until the next time, up the Cherries.
Up the Cherries. Green and White Army as well for Northern Ireland. So next time, boys.
Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.